To me, finding yarn you forgot about is like finding money in a pocket. Might even like this a little better than finding money in a pocket, because finding money in a pocket, then I'm like, oh, should I do something fun with it? Should I be sensible with it? With this, I know what I'm going to do. Hi, welcome to Musing Maker. I'm Harriet. This channel is where I come to talk about all of the various knitting and crochet and spinning and weaving projects that I get up to in the field of the fiber arts. So it's been a while since I did a regular podcast episode. In today's video, I've got 4 finished sweaters, a finished shawl, a few new works in progress, and some ideas for future cast-ons. So the first 2 finished objects that I have to talk about were actually gifted, so I don't have them here with me. I have talked about them in previous podcasts, but I'll give a quick recap here. So the first one is a sweater that I made for a friend of mine. It's a men's sweater, and it is called Middlemarch by Norah Gaughan. I made this in Barocco Ultra Alpaca in the color Chianti, and I used a US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needle and a US 7 or I believe it's a 4.5 millimeter needle. And as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, this sweater has an interesting construction because you work the top portion of it with the cabling first, and you work separate pieces for the front and the back, and then you basically join them together at the shoulder seams, and then you work the rest of the body in the round downward from that, and then you attach the sleeves to that. So it has a really nice cable detailing on the top, and that's kind of most of the interest of the pattern, and then the rest of it is just kind of stockinette in the round, although you do have that little sort of band of texture going down the front and the back that kind of helps keep your interest. Okay, so the second finished object that I have is the new Norma by My Favorite Things. And I made this one in Knit Picks Swish Worsted in the color Dove Heather. It's the main color. Again, this was one that has been since gifted. And then for the color, the colored bands on it, I simply used some leftover superwash that I had in stash. This one went relatively quickly because the bulk of the body is knit on US 9s, and then the ribbing, the cuff detail is knit on US 6. So the friend that I gifted this to was very happy. Swish, this yarn is very soft, and I wanted to make it, since I was making the body of it in a light color and it was going to be a gift for someone else, I decided to make it in superwash. That way the person doesn't have to worry about, being able to throw it in the washing machine and wash it if need be. The third finished object that I have is, again, something that I've talked about in a previous video, and that is the Stephen West pattern painting bricks. So I started working on this as part of a scrappy stash buster, and I have since finished it, and I'm very happy with it. I'll put a picture of it up here. As it's blocking, as with so many Stephen West shawls, it's pretty big, right? I mean, I could have made it bigger, but I decided I was at a point where I was happy to just sort of bind it off and move on with my day. So it's made with a mix of different leftover yarns, leftover sock yarns, fingering weight sock yarns that I had in stash. The main color was also a yarn that I had in stash. It's Cloudborne Fibers limited edition alpaca sport in the color Fog Heather, and that's a discontinued yarn, and I had quite a bit of it. I used some of it for a sweater. I still have quite a bit of that left over as well, but I really liked the way I had wanted to make the painting bricks shawl pattern for quite some time, and so when I saw the scrappy stash, the scrappy knit along, I decided that this was a good time to both try out that pattern and use up some scraps, and I'm happy with the final result on that one. Hi, just a quick reminder here that if you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting the subscribe button and getting notifications. This channel has gotten a lot of new viewers, and for that I'm really excited and really happy. But you know, according to my YouTube statistics, most of the people watching actually aren't subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed but would like to, please click the button and join us. Many years ago, I bought a couple of huge skeins of a green striped yarn from Plymouth Yarn, and it's the brand is, sorry, the yarn name is Mushishi. I think it's discontinued at this point, and it sat in my stash for a really long time, and I had a lot of it. I had a sweater's quantity of it, actually more than a sweater's quantity of it, as it turns out. And I just kind of kept waiting for the right project for it. And then I decided that rather than wait for, you know, the perfect project for it, I really just wanted a kind of casual sweater that I could kind of throw on. And so when I saw Heidi Kirrmaier's pattern Homebody, I decided that that was perfect for this. And it knit up very quickly because, again, I was using a US 10 for the body and US 9 for the cuffs and the ribbing on it. And yeah, I'll put pictures of it here so that you can see sort of what it looks like. I didn't have to do too much yarn management on it. It's knit from the top down, so I knew that I'd be, you know, whenever you have a yarn like this that has sort of striping kind of built into it, in the past I've had issues where it's like one sleeve ends up looking very different from the other sleeve. But in this case, I just kind of had to keep an eye on where I was starting and ending when I started each sleeve. And I think it worked out fine. I mean, it's not identical as it, the sleeve striping, because the sleeves are narrow or smaller in circumference than the body, obviously. It's not gonna stripe at the same rate, but I just wanted them to look relatively similar. And then there's only a real distinct difference, I think, when you get down towards the cuff. But again, I envision this as a sweater that I can kind of just throw on when I need to, like, you know, run out to the mailbox or run out to shovel snow quickly or something like that. It's not really one that I'm envisioning wearing in any kind of dressy context. So yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. The yarn is nice and soft, and yeah, looking forward to wearing it when the weather changes again. I don't know about you, but I do this a lot. I don't necessarily knit seasonally. I mean, I will knit more spring and summer tops in spring and summer, but I also tend to kind of keep working on winter knits, and a lot of times it's not uncommon for me to finish up a bunch of winter knits in May or June or July or August and then just set them aside and have them there as kind of a nice surprise in the fall when I get ready to start wearing my sweaters again. This next pattern is one where I had the pattern, so with my Homebody sweater, I had the yarn in stash for a really long time, for years, and wanted to make it. In this case, the Oksa pattern by Caitlin Hunter had been one that I had been wanting to make for a really long time and waiting for, you know, a good yarn to make it with. And then I decided, you know, I have plenty of yarn in stash, pick one and make it. And so that's what I did. So the yarn that I used for this is Cascade Revive. It's a recycled yarn, yarn made of recycled fibers, and the sweater itself was made using US 7s. So again, went pretty quickly. Yeah, the yoke is the portion of the sweater that has, you know, the most visual interest to it, lots of texture. I like the fit of it a lot. The ribbing is knit through the back loop on, you know, the cuffs, and then you do a stockinette stitch for a few rounds to kind of get a rolled look to the edge of the cuff. You obviously wouldn't have to do that if you didn't want to do that. I actually opted on this one to do an Italian bind off for the ribbing around the body, and I kind of surprised myself on that one because I don't usually like to do sewn bind offs, or I guess it's not just that I don't like to do them, I don't mind doing them, but I usually don't really like the way they look all that much, right? I mean, I'm probably in the minority on this one. If you also don't love how some bind-offs look, drop a comment down below, let me know, because I've always assumed I'm in the minority on that one. I think for me, it's not that I don't like how it looks, it's that I'm one of those people who kind of weighs like, do I really dislike how something like the Longtail cast on looks enough that I would be willing to put the effort in to do a sewn bind off, right? Or a basic bind off. I'm sorry, I think I said cast on, right? Do I dislike the look of a basic bind off enough that I would prefer to do a sewn bind off? Not really, right? So that's me. But in this case, I decided, let's try it. I'm actually still working through Master Hand Knitter certification program, level 3, and we have to do lots of different types of cast-ons and bind-offs, and so maybe I had gotten a little bit just sort of in the flow with it. But I am happy with how it looked on this particular sweater. So it's entirely possible that on a previous sweater when I tried it, yeah, it maybe just didn't look as good. Anyway, I'm happy with how it looks on this one. Surprised myself, happy to have the Oksa. Okay, so one of my first works in progress I'm holding up here, and you may recognize this. This is one of the Stella quilt cushions by Laura Penrose, and it's a nice big cushion, so I can't really show all of it. Basically, I had a lot of superwash yarn in stash, and so I decided I was going to make several of these. I think I originally planned to make 3, but then the pillow inserts were sold in sets of 2, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll make 4. And so I, over the course of several months, just worked on the front of the quilts. And I know a lot of people I've also made the Sweet Shop blanket, and it's a similar kind of construction to that in terms of making the design for the front of it. And then what I then had to do was work on the back. And I have to say, if I had known what I was getting into, I mean, I don't know. Like, I really do like this cushion, and I am looking forward to having 3 more of them. However, working the back on this one, right, so it's garter stitch. I guess I would say the good thing is it's definitely going to use up a lot more of my superwash yarn from stash than I thought it would, so that's a pro. A con is I feel like it's going to take me forever and a day to finish these. Yeah, I mean, it's just garter stitch, right? So it's not terribly exciting. And like garter stitch in general, always takes longer than stockinette stitch, right? Because the stitches are kind of, right? So if you do a gauge swatch in garter stitch, you'll notice that it's gonna end up a lot smaller. The same number of rows in garter stitch is, a lot smaller than the same number of rows in something like stockinette. Okay, and as I mentioned in a previous video, I've decided to participate in the mystery knit along being hosted by Romi Hill. And so I don't want to, it started last week. The first clue dropped last Friday, May 22nd. Still plenty of time, I believe, to join. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody who either is planning on joining or has just started or got the clue but hasn't had a chance to work on it. So I'll kind of, whenever I talk about it, make sure that I'm talking about it, sort of far enough in advance. But I did want to talk about the yarns that I chose for it. So I decided to go, as I kind of thought through, right, so the prompt that she offers is, what is the color of hope? Or what color do you associate with hope? And I think that for me, I mean, I know what colors are my favorite colors. I know why bright colors might be something that sort of seems more hopeful. But I think that, the more I thought about it, the more I thought that, if the shawl is going to represent hope, then to my mind, like, hope is something that kind of coexists at a time of darkness. And so I decided that, kind of keeping that in mind, and again, wanting to work from yarns I already had in stash, I have this Cascade yarn Serrata. And I remember exactly where I was when I got this yarn. It's kind of funny. So this is a yarn that's 70% baby llama, 30% silk. Let me hold it up so you guys can see it a little better. It's got beautiful drape to it. It's just, you know, kind of one of those yarns that's really made for shawl knitting. And so the color that I have for it, I don't know if it has a color. It's color number 4. So, so this is the one that I'm using for the main color. And so I started knitting on this. And yes, there was part of me that's like, are you insane? You're going to knit dark lace in a dark color? But yes, I am, right? Or at least I'm going to try. And so, yeah, I think I have more than enough. I'm certain I have more than enough of this yarn. So I've started with this color. So clue 1 is worked entirely in, you know, the first color, and Romi Hill gives the advice that she starts with the darker color. So that's what I did. And then for the contrasting color, I haven't totally finalized what I want to do, but I think I have. So this is a yarn that I had in deep stash. It's Jojoland Harmony. I think I'm saying that right. It might be Yoyoland Harmony. And this is the color Fairyland, I believe. And so I'm pretty sure I remember getting this yarn, but I don't know what I was thinking, because this is not simply a lace weight yarn. This is a cobweb weight yarn. So I must have been feeling really ambitious, but I think probably I just liked the color of it and then thought, cobweb, I'll find a use for that. That probably was about a decade ago, and I haven't knit with cobweb weight yarn before this, and it's unlikely I'm going to do it. But the thing was, I had 2 skeins of it, and so what I decided to do was to, and it's all wound up right now. I'll show it to you. And so, you know, you can't see the gradient on it, but it's a very subtle kind of gradient. And so basically what I did, because I had 2 skeins, I just pulled from the center and pulled from the outside on one, and pulled from the center and pulled from the outside on 2. This is basically 4 threads. It's really thread held together, and then I wound it into a ball. And so I think that this will go really well with, where did I put it? Yeah, so I'm thinking these 2 will be my colors, right? And again, it's a little bit hard to see because this is a variegated, so there's purple in there, there's a little bit of yellow, but it's a very, very light, very subtle color. And so I thought that, you know, thinking about the idea of hope, I feel like, yeah, I wanted to have something that kind of shows a little bit of darkness, and then something that shows like this kind of, yeah, this gradient of color that starts to kind of appear on the horizon or in your life or whatever when you're thinking about hope. So I have a sweater project that I've wanted to make for a very long time, and it's a pattern called Paper Dolls by Davies. And I actually bought the yarn for it a while ago, and so I will pull it here and show you. Okay, so this is Tacky Yarns Donegal Fine, Tacky Yarns Donegal Fine Tweed Homespun. I want you to show it this way. So, but this was the one I envisioned for the main color, and then these, I believe this is the color I want to use for the doll shapes themselves across the yoke, and then this will be the accent color. And so I've had this yarn sitting in stash for a very long time, and I went today to get it out, and because I really do, I want this sweater. I've wanted this sweater for a while. It's one that's been in the back of my mind, and so I'm looking forward to casting this one on some point soon. Funny story though, as I was looking for this yarn, I knew where this yarn was. I had it in the bin, and I was, you know, kind of going through making sure I pulled out all the skeins of it, and as I did, I pulled out this. More to the point, I pulled out a sweater's quantity of this. So this is High Desert Sport, from Knit Picks in the color Willow. And as I was pulling this out, staring at it in stunned surprise, I pulled out a sweater's quantity of another High Desert Sport Weight yarn in a darker green. I have no recollection really of buying either of these. So this is not a bad thing, right? I mean, it's never bad to have. To me, finding yarn you forgot about is like finding money in a pocket. Might even like this a little better than finding money in a pocket, because finding money in a pocket, then I'm like, oh, should I do something fun with it? Should I be sensible with it? With this, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, so that's it for this episode of Musing Maker. Please drop a comment down below if you've got a project that you're working on or one that you're kind of struggling to make progress on. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Have a great week.